This is John Stahl-Wert, and along with my colleagues at Center for Serving Leadership, we are committed to investing in and growing and supporting leaders around the world to make the biggest positive impact they can through their leadership. I want to just say a few things about leaders who hoard. I'm not talking about the garden variety of hoarding that we all know about. I see hoarders everywhere on earth. I was amazed to discover, I should not have been, on a recent trip to Southeast Asia, that even in the tiny apartments in massive high-rise cities in Southeast Asia, there are hoarders. And I was looking in one neighborhood where a woman who lived in a very small apartment, very little room to hoard, and she had a bit of a balcony, was behaving exactly like what my next door neighbor was behaving about 10 years ago when he was hoarding. I'm not talking about that kind. I'm talking about hoarders, a hoarding spirit that shows up in leadership. A week and a half ago, I was at a wonderful little bistro in another state, visiting with a new friend, a man who started his company about 35 years ago. And he came out of an Amish background. His father built silos, so he helped his father build silos. And in the old days of silo building, they would haul the cement up. The ring of the silo was poured, and they would haul the cement up in buckets. And, a silo can go 100 feet up. And at a certain point, he discovered the technology of cement pumping. And so he started doing that in silo building. And then he realized that all kinds of construction sites can use cement pumps. I don't know if you recall when you first started seeing these machines that would put the great booms out over a project, and instead of the cement just coming out the back of the truck into wheelbarrows or what have you, the cement would go up and pump down. And so he expanded his business. And a certain point of time came as he was growing his company when a person that he saw as a customer came to him and said, I would like to do some of that work myself, but I need some help in acquiring my own cement pump truck. And this man I was visiting with had a decision to make. Should he hoard the market? Because here was a fellow. Now, the fellow was another state over from him, but here was a fellow, in fact, a friend that he had done a lot of work for, pumping cement and, driving his trucks over, doing the job, coming back, getting paid for that. But this person had opportunity to do some of that work in his region and asked my new friend, would you help me get a truck? I promise you a hoarder says no. What's that person hoarding? Market. Like, I'm not going to help you. Because, and here is what is at the heart of a hoarder's worldview, because there's only so much market, and I want my piece. I'm going to hoard my access to the market. And if I help you, it'd be like, loaning your neighbor something that you have in your house and then you don't have it. If I help you, then I have lost a piece of the pie. And as my friend was sharing the story with me, he said, it's really amazing, John. I did it. He said, I helped him. I helped my friend become my competitor, as it were. And he said, as I did it, I realized that what I had done is I had increased my value, not decreased it. The pie didn't get smaller. The pie got bigger. And he said, I've now helped him buy several trucks. And when he has difficulties in what he's doing, he comes to me. And so we're doing work for his company at a different level than we used to do it. The posture of I'm not going to help you would have lost him a friend, would have lost him value, and would have lost him growth. I'm going to help my friend, step into my market, looked like the losing proposition. but it was the gaining proposition for this man. And I reflected on that, and I reflected on a lot of examples like that. Toward the end of last year, I visited another company that used to do welding projects for farm-related implements. They would weld things, and they had market, and people who needed certain innovations or adaptations or adjustments to standard implements that they had purchased would come in, and they would fabricate and weld and design the things that were needed as a job shop in the farm implement industry. And they also had their own line. They did some of their own unique things that they built from scratch. But because they were so good at it, because the quality of their welding was so excellent, the quality of their design was so excellent, the innovations they did in the shop to do it better and better was spread their reputation. Other weld shops, other job shops came to them to ask them to help them be better at the craft of welding and building implements. What is that? To become a more effective competitor to them. And my friends in that business said, yeah, we'll help you. And so things that they had figured out how to do better, they shared in their market. You say, well, that's ridiculous. There's only so much market. It's a piece of the pie, and you just lost your pie piece got smaller. But what happened to this company is that they went up the value chain, and they are now manufacturing equipment and tools and other implements to sell to weld shops. They went up the value chain. They didn't go down. Turns out that by not having a hoarding mentality, like I'm hoarding my market, I'm hoarding my expertise, I'm hoarding the things we've learned so that we can have that edge in our market. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm sharing these things with others. It didn't decrease their value. It increased their value. And when you go into their shop now, you see them manufacturing things that are unbelievable. In fact, what it did for them is it opened up a national market because they're doing things now that can reach weld shops everywhere, not just reach farmers within a day's drive. You see where I'm going with this? A hoarding mentality is the mentality that says that, as I build my business, I got to keep my customers. I got to keep my technology. I got to keep my know-how because, boy, there's only so much pie. And if I share my piece, I'm going to have less. I think the man that showed me this first, and I will name him, is a man named Bill Mullett. I've talked about my friend Bill before. Bill built a window and door manufacturing company named Provia. And many, many years ago, I began to work with Bill in his company to deal with his people, culture, leadership issues. That's what we do, helping leaders as they grow to understand leadership practices that strengthen cultures of humanness that activate and energize and engage workers who bring more, because work is a cooler place to be. And so I helped Bill with that somewhere around 2005, 6, somewhere in that range, going now around 20 years ago. And what I discovered in his company is that, and he did this with me, Bill said to everybody in his organization, I think they were, I don't know, maybe doing $125 million, maybe a little less, maybe a little more at that time. And he said to everybody in his organization, if we've figured something out, if we have found a solution that works better for us, and he said, and that includes in our HR practice, in our people practice, in our leadership development practice, in what we're doing in serving leadership, if we've gotten good at something, I want you to share it with other businesses in the community. Listen to that. The owner of a company is telling his people who are skillful, if you're good at something and you know someone who's struggling with that, share, help them. Bill had a clear understanding that these things should not be hoarded. Like, I'm going to hang on to these so that they're mine. You know, when we hang on to things so that they're ours, we lose them. Ask yourself the question, you know, what it's like to walk into a hoarder's apartment and look around and ask, what does this person actually have? Because of the fact that they have squeezed everything so tight that the value of it is gone, quite frankly. So Bill did that, and he would send people in his team who were good at welding, who were good at robotics, who were good at design, to people that he knew in the community who were struggling. They would help. He would send people on his team who were good at leadership and management out. One of the things that Bill did with me is he said, John, I'd like you to come over to the community. I was going over there just to help him. And at a certain point he said, let me pull a lot of people together. And Bill filled a room of about 200 owners. And he didn't go through a checklist and say, okay, if they're non-competitors, I'll invite them. You know, if they build furniture and if they farm and if, you know, if they do excavating, I'll invite them. But if they build windows and doors, I'm not going to invite them because that's my space. He didn't do that. He invited everybody he knew in the community to come in and to learn about serving leadership, about leadership practices that develop workplace cultures of performance and how to treat your people right. He wanted everybody to get good. You know, Bill said to me an expression you've heard, I've heard, you know, when the water level goes up, all ships rise. That's what he said. He was not a hoarder. He shared. And I think I have met 500 leaders in that community who attribute their success to Bill because of things that they did that helped them to get better. Recently, in a national newspaper, there was an article printed on the economic growth in America as measured by county. This came out in the fall of just this past year. And the county I'm talking about, it happens to be Holmes County, Ohio. That county was the fastest growing county economically in the United States. And how did that happen? Well, because there are non-hoarders there, and not just Bill. Bill has also been a non-hoarder in sharing an attitude of non-hoarding, helping other people to share. And in the same way that I told the story about my friend whose specialty is in cement pumping, or my friend whose specialty is in welding, the nature of their businesses grew when they stopped thinking in terms of the small pie, only so much, and if I lose a piece, then there's less for me. In fact, a hoarding attitude begins with an idea that there is only so much. You know, it's a zero-sum game, and so, boy, I got to get mine and keep it, and my competitors are my enemies. This isn't the way things are. As we share, as we serve, as we take things that belong to us and make them available for the strengthening of others, our value doesn't go down. Our value goes up. The opportunities we have to add value to others expand. What we're doing when we decide not to hoard is we're going through business lessons that actually elevate our company, that allow us to be seen appropriately, to be seen legitimately as a company that is of greater value. And when we are producing greater value, there's a larger market that can appreciate that value and value us back. The company that Bill built that was somewhere in the range of, I would say, $125 million in 2005, 6, 7, is somewhere in the range of $1 billion today. They've lived this way. Let's be excellent. Let's learn. Let's crack through the obstacles of our growth. Let's get better at what we do. Let's help others do that. Let's be generous with the marketplace, with our partners, with our vendors. Let's make sure that everybody elevates. Let's help this thing that we're getting good at be distributed to others. The things that we possess don't belong to us. I've talked about this in a variety of ways, and this attitude of hoarding, as it applies to how we think about market and competitor, we need to get past that. Value creation is an all-encompassing deal. Yes, inside our company, we want to create value for a customer and get value back with a margin so that we can grow. That's what business is. But as an enterprise, we want to create value for our community, for our neighbors, and for the other businesses, because when our economy grows, when our county becomes stronger, do you think our business doesn't have more opportunity? When our skills grow, when the people around us develop more, isn't that good for everyone? It's not a zero sum. It's not one piece of pie that we fight over. Value creation is an expandable and, frankly, limitless engagement where we learn, we grow, we develop, we serve, we deliver. Our value increases. People realize they can trust us more. People see that doing business with us is good. And the opportunities for us to have an impact are greater. And so let's not be hoarders. Leaders are givers. Leaders are sharers. Leaders are investors. Leaders are relaxed about these things. Good leaders understand that when we turn what we have over and when we share it freely and when we help, there is a return on that allows everything that we care about to be served well. And it is what allows us to make the biggest impact we can in service to our world.
For more information about the Center for Serving Leadership, visit our website at centerforservingleadership.com.